Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, doing my review for episode 3 of The Last of Us on HBO. Man, I am loving this series, and boy, do I love this episode. There are a few long term issues, serious issues I might have with this, as well as a couple of issues I had with the episode itself. But honestly, this is I'm just gonna spell out right now. This is a 10 out of 10. This was emotional. It was well written. It was like well acted. The performances were amazing. Like holy heck! Like Nick Offerman, he's an amazing actor, and he loves it. From what I've read on his performance, he'd never played the game. He'd heard about it, and yeah, he didn't play the game or anything. Just sort of watched some cutscenes after his interview, and yeah, he just sort of made it his own. Like and it did an amazing job. So this one, episode 3, sort of is a side story. Um, you know, Ellie and Joel are in it, but they're kind of side characters in this episode. They aren't very involved, and it takes with Bill and Frank. So they're two smugglers. You do run into them in game. I think I over summarized the last time I was kind of explaining to you, seeing, one's dead, and whatnot. I think in the game, Bill is actually still alive. But yeah, it's not a huge part of the game, but it is a part of the game that sort of fleshes out Ellie's character a little bit more. I mean, in the game though, these two they're nothing. Like uh, they they're sort of like partners, but they're kind of assholes to each other. I mean, Bill himself is an asshole. Um, Frank has no character essentially in it. It's So yeah, this episode apparently takes things that were cut out of the game and adds them in to sort of make this side story. And like I said, I can't say anything good. Like by itself, this is honestly probably the best episode in TV I've seen for a long time. This was so impactful. I actually like was breaking down in tears, and that rarely happens. It was it was super emotional, and it broke me. It broke my wall of reserve that I usually have up. Um, you know, uh, with all that good stuff in place, um, I want to say I do have some issues, uh, or not issues, but questions about the series going so far, because these are two side characters essentially, and they are very side characters in the game, that were made essentially into main characters for this episode. Um, and their send off was just so impactful, so great. I myself didn't fully get that for Tessa's character, uh, in the last episode, and I really think that's too bad. Um, and I worry about some other characters, some other things that happen in the game that if they do something like this, um, is it going to take away from certain characters? Because again, I love this episode. This, I think, again, was is one of the greatest episodes on TV that I've seen for a long time. Uh, but I wonder how much of Tessa's like ending did this episode sort of cut in when it came to story, because it felt like if they did this good for these two side characters, why couldn't Tess hit as hard? Because it didn't. I understood the sacrifice. Was it sad? In the game, it was sad. In this one, it was kind of like, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it as much. All right, so there's that. Um, and then I have like there's one thing, one scene in particular that is just such like a disbelievable thing. So Bill is a survivalist. He has lots of guns, lots of weapons. He's been living in this place for years. Um, and there's a point where he is fighting a bunch of raiders, human raiders, trying to get in and steal his shit. Um, he's out there in the middle of the street with a bunch of raiders shooting their weapons at him. I mean, they're being set on fire, they're being electrocuted. There's mines, like they're still being taken care of, but at the same time, what is he doing out in the open, getting blasted at? And then he gets hit, and it's just like, I get what you were trying to do, but it felt really contrived, really cheap, and it definitely dampened the believability factor uh, to have him do that, because you don't need to make him an idiot to get drama. Again, he could have been shot from cover, behind a car, down on a curb, in the prone on his lawn. Like, don't have him standing straight up in the middle of a street with no cover. That made no sense to me. Um, but yeah, aside from that, I absolutely love this, and apparently a lot of other people did too. This episode ran 75 minutes, so I'm loving that they're actually taking their time with the episodes, because the episodes are good, and the fact that they're taking time, makes me think that maybe they can get all of the story out in one thing, one season. But season two is greenlit, and I'm kind of worried because even though I haven't played the second Last of Us, I've heard stories, and while the judgment isn't universal by any means, I hear that game is very controversial because of certain changes they made to characters that were a little jarring from what I hear. And just how much certain things didn't make sense, or were such a radical departure from, like, say, said character. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, there is an after thing where he's just like, if we can do it better, we'll deviate. If we can't, then we'll keep it the same. And you know what? I'm glad for that. I hope that he sticks true to that, because he got really defensive over the Last of Us 2 criticisms. And it's just like, not everybody who criticized it is a woke sucks, fuck women, all that shit. Like, they're not racist, chauvinist, sexist pigs and, anti-wokers. Some people had legitimate criticism, and there was a lot of it, a lot of criticism. It's just like, honestly, and I'd need to play it to be sure, but I mean, just from what I've heard, it's just like, maybe don't change your characters so jarringly, and maybe don't, the story just wasn't as well written as the first one. I don't know, but yeah. So hopefully he's taken that to heart, cooled down, and takes the legitimate criticism into effect for that. So anyway, let's get into the actual. So what would I give this? Yeah, I already said this. This is a 10 of 10. This is a 10 of 10. I think I said that at the very beginning. If I didn't, there you go. It's a 10 of 10. This is amazing. This is best television I've seen in a while. Um, so breakdown of the episode. So uh, we're going to Lincoln, Massachusetts. So they're walking, and they are, talking, and she asks, "How did this all start?" Because she wasn't born when this all broke out, and he answers, essentially, they no one knows for sure, but through bread, you eat enough of it, you get infected, and then when you get infected, you infect other people, and so on and so forth. And yeah, they're talking about like she sees a plane and just like, you ever been in one of those? And she's like, yeah, it wasn't that great. She's like, you've been in the sky. Like, it's one of those things. It's just like we take for granted, but someone who like was born after an apocalypse, like they don't know that. Who knows if she'll ever know what that's like. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things. It's so well, like actually getting some of their conversation. And so anyway, they keep going. He wants to cut through the woods because there's something ahead that he doesn't want her to see. She's just like, well, now I have to see it. And what is it? It's a bunch of skeletons of innocent people, and he tells her what happened. It's just like after the outbreak, they went to the smaller towns, and essentially told them, we can get you to a QZ. But if they didn't, for the ones that they didn't have room for, they executed. Dead people can't get infected. Essentially, is the mentality, and it shows like a baby skeleton, a like bunch of grown-up skeletons. There's clothes are everywhere, and then it sort of does this flashback. So 20 years. So essentially, as the military is gathering all these people, uh, Bill is in a basement in a bunker, and yeah, as they take everyone else away to either go to the QZ or to be executed. So he survives, and then he goes through all of the businesses and homes, uh, build a generator, traps, electric fence, so on and so forth. And again, it shows one, but I'm sure he's been dealing with these all throughout the years. The because Joel explains that it's not very likely that runners would be infected people would be up there. They want to be more where there's more people, so they're mostly in the cities. Um, but every once in a while there was an infected there, and so he's got tripwires and shotguns all over the place. His basement is just full of guns. So yeah, he's a big survivalist. and he's able to, essentially live the dream. Which, I mean, you got to think with how much like how hard it would be to secure meat and all the stuff he's eating on there. That had to have been an every once in a while thing. There probably was a lot of spam and other stuff, but who knows? Anyway, so we go ahead 4 years, and a trip alarm goes off. Someone has fallen into one his house. He goes up, it's just like, hello? It's like, I'm not infected. And are you armed? No. It's like, what took you so long to respond? Just like I thought I was gonna, yeah. And so just the banter back and forth, but he eventually grabs him, takes him out. Um, and it's Frank. He asks for some food, and Bill's just like at first no, and then he drops his gun, invites him in. Essentially gives him a shower. He's got hot water. Gives him some new clothes, and yeah, eats. And apparently he is a connoisseur as well. Meat with the red wine. So anyway, before he leaves, um, he points at a piano, and Frank, tries to play. It's not very good. So Bill plays. It is very amazing, very passionate. And he's just like, "Who's the woman you're singing about?" And he's just like, "There is no woman." And he's just like, "I know." And they kiss. And yeah, so the start of a really great love story. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it felt very real, I guess, for two men dealing with the dire circumstances that they are dealing with, and yet they find love throughout all this. So they go into the bedroom, and they're naked, and they have sex. It's just like, have you ever done this before? And Bill's like, once with a girl a long time ago. It's just like, I'll start with the basic stuff, and then he goes down on him, and that's where you pan away. um, and then it goes to 3 years later. Anyway, 3 years later, this part I was kind of like, I see what you're trying to do, but you're kind of hitting it a little hard for believability's sake. So, um, Frank is wanting to clean up the house, clean up the boutique, clean up a few other things, clean up the neighborhood, so they can start making friends. And I'm just like, I get it, but it was a bit on the nose. Not that it loses points for it. It's just I have to bring it up. It was just a bit much. Um, so anyway, and so later Frank, that's how he meets Tess. on the radio, and they come and they're going to talk about trading and smuggling because the QZ has stuff that Bill and Frank don't have, and Bill and Frank have stuff that the QZ has. So they go, they talk to him, they establish a code for the radio, which was talked about in episode 1, 90s being new product, 80s being trouble, 2000s being I forget, but yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, so Joel convinces Bill to accept Frank's plan, offering him, pure aluminum for his fence so that it doesn't rust because he has just an iron fence, and other things that he potentially has. So a little later, Raiders attempt to infiltrate the town, and then this is where Bill gets really injured, and it's just like you could have done this so much more convincingly, like cover in the prone, like anything, but he's literally like wide open in the street, standing straight up with multiple guys with guns. And yeah, they're being taken out. Yeah, the defenses are great, but holy shit. It was really unbelievable. And he gets hit in the stomach. Frank goes and he takes him in. You think he's dying, and Bill tells Frank to call Joel. He'll take care of you. But he lives. And what I think is, I remember in the game that Bill owed him a favor, and this may have been the favor. Frank did message Joel. Joel did come and save Bill, so that could be what they're trying to base this favor around that is mentioned in the game. So I don't complain with it per se. It's just it was executed not in a very smart way, in my opinion. So then it goes to 10 years later. Bill and Frank are elderly. So Bill's fine, but Frank now has a degenerative disease, which, from a comment he made, like they don't have wandering MRI machines. I'm assuming cancer, but it could be like MS, ALS. I'm just assuming cancer. So, but whatever. He's wheelchair bound. He can't really paint anymore. And yeah, he decides he doesn't want to live. But on his last day, he wants Frank to take him out, get into new suits, and get married in their living room. And then after that, wants Bill to make him dinner, and then in his wine, crush a bunch of just stuff that's going to kill him, essentially, a massive OD of medication or whatever. And yeah, that's it. So, and man, it got this is where I broke down crying, because Bill immediately is just like, he's crying as Frank is like telling what he wants to do, and he's just like, I can't. And I just like, goddamn, it was it was a bit much. And yeah, it got me. It got me. I did tear up, and I broke down a bit. So It was very, very emotional, touching, well performed scene. The music was amazing. Good grief. It was so sad. It was so sad. Uh, but he does agree. But then, so from what I'm reading here, it says sleeping tablets. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure if it ever really goes into it, but he does crush some sort of medication. So that's all I'm going to say. Um, but anyway, he puts the crushed concoction into the wine glass, but then he essentially tells him that he spiked the entire bottle so that he would die too. And they go into the bedroom and they die, and that's that. Um, so a little later on, it doesn't really establish when. Uh, it says several weeks, but it's never really established how long it's been. Um, so Joel reaches Lincoln with Ellie. Um, is this and that's where they find the bedroom locked, and then Ellie finds a room with a letter from Bill addressed to Joel, essentially saying, "I never really liked you, but I guess we're friends. I owe you a favor. So take my truck, weapons, supplies, everything that's in the house is yours. Uh, we left the window so the house wouldn't stink. Um, but please don't come in because it's sure to be a sight." And essentially says that caring and protecting Frank gave him a purpose in this world, and that Joel has a mission to save a life no matter the cost as well. You know, that was Tess, but now that sort of he couldn't protect her, he couldn't protect his daughter, so now he's got just Ellie. And while he's still not there yet, you know, it again starts to build it. So he again agrees to take her to Wyoming to go find his brother, Tommy. Uh, but yeah, they take Bill's truck. You know, once again, the gun thing comes into play. Um, I think in this episode, there's also a place where they go. There's a stash of Joel's where they have to go. Um, and Ellie essentially kills an infected that's was trapped in a cave in. Um, and again, why Joel doesn't have his gun, it's just that's another thing I didn't understand is why he's given his gun. I mean, explain like they don't have many bullets for that, and it's just like you didn't really use that many bullets for your gun anyway, and I imagine you have to have quite a supply when you go on a run with a weapon like that. So I don't know. It wasn't well explained, and I don't buy why he left it, why he's not taking it, especially with the world that they live in. So I don't know. Don't think that was really well executed. But anyway, so I missed over that part. I included it because I was just so focused on Bill and Frank's plot. But anyway, so she sees his wall full of guns. She's like, "Can we have one?" He doesn't take one. And again, I don't get it. Like, and it was kind of a joke in the game. It was mentioned a few times, and in this, it's brought up a little too much. Like for 3 episodes, they play the no, we're not letting Ellie get a gun. And it's just like whatever. Anyway, so she's searching through. She finds a gun in a sort of shelf, and she takes it, puts it in her backpack, and that's gonna be. I don't want to spoil it, but y'all know what that's gonna be. Anyway, so they get ready to go. They take a shower. They feel great. And he says, if you're going to come with me, there's some ground rules. No mentioning Tess. Never reveal anyone about her secret because that could be bad. And she has to follow Joel's orders completely. So after that, they drive away, listening. So they find something. It is long, long time. So it is a song by Linda Ronstadt, who I personally don't know, but apparently is an artist that was pretty big. I don't know the song myself personally, but I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. So anyway, that is it for this. Once again, 10 out of 10 for this episode. Really great, really emotional. I absolutely loved it. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. This has been super fun. I hope I can attempt to consistently get these episodes down. But again, I can't promise that because it's not someone else's. But since I did go through a third of it at my friend's house, I decided we're just going to go for it. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, crossing my fingers that this works out. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will catch you guys next time. See ya.